So there's a few things we can do to really make the background feel like it's doing more than what it's doing now. It's just very static background. We can bring in a texture. We can bring in some kind of movement happening in the background, some kind of shapes. Let's keep it simple. We need to start developing a theme here. We have yellow, we have purple. Let's create a theme with the shapes that we use. So let's just do very simple. I know it's a little boring, but we'll try to make it exciting. Let's stick with circles as our theme. So we're going to be using the ellipse tool, and let's select that same yellow. We could just do the eyedropper tool and sample it. So we got our eyedropper tool, and let's go ahead and click and create a circle. So I'm going to need to hold shift and drag to create a perfect circle. And I think what this is going to do, let's go and bring this down in the layering system behind her. This is going to really make her body pop out as well. So that's going to be interesting. And it's going to be able to bleed. What we need to do is develop images and graphics that are going to bleed over to create the seamless look, because that's what we're doing. That's what makes this unique, is that things go from one side to another. So this shape connects the two, slide 1 and slide 2. And we're going to do that throughout this entire thing. Create elements that intentionally bleed into the next slide. So in this case, this needs to be smaller. That's okay. It's just kind of there to say, hey, follow me. And what else can we do to add another element of surprise? So we have triangles, and I had a lot of students go, I can't find the triangle tool. If you can't find the triangle tool, you'll most likely have a 2020 Photoshop version or earlier. So to get the triangle tool, you will need to update, but you can always just use the pen tool and fill it in to create all sorts of custom shapes. But this just makes it easier. I'm going to create a triangle, same yellow. And what if we turned it around? Just holding down shift and turning it around, clicking it around. And let's do a blending mode here. I want to see her eye, but I want to keep the saturation of the yellow. So that looks washed out at overlay. But let's continue to find the right blending mode. Multiply. Multiply might really look good here. And what this does is it creates a visual tension or a visual interest. So before we're talking about basic and boring. And, you know, this adds kind of this contemporary flair to it. There's this triangle, there's these harsh corners, and it's right there in her eye, which is a really important part of the face. And so it just provides something interesting happening. You don't have to do this, but just kind of going through my thought process on why am I doing the specific things I'm doing. So I feel pretty good about this slide. Let's move on to the next one. So this is slide number 1. So what are we going to do here? Let's go ahead and just hold down Option and drag and bring that over. We're going to use the same typography theme throughout. So what is going to be the second slide going to be about? It's going to be create a theme using shapes and color. I know a lot of designers love to use the plus sign instead of an ampersand, but I find it's more professional sometimes, not as cool looking, but to use an ampersand. So I'm just going to use an ampersand in this case. And we want to figure out, we want to have another photo. We don't want to put another photo here because that will compete with this photo. So let's have some photo that goes across slide 2 and slide 3 that talks about create a theme using shapes and color. So let's put our typography butting up against being left aligned along the side. So we can, what's the most important word here? Create a theme using shapes and color. How about a theme? I'm just going to click and make that yellow. So when we make this yellow, right, first of all, we probably need to add a little bit of a drop shadow if we're going to have any of the same color overlapping, but let's not make it super, super strong. We don't want it to look cheap. We don't want to darken our drop shadows and make them look dated, just really subtle. So right now we have two things screaming at you, a theme and a color. So we're talking about color and using themes. Let's bring out this purple to break this up so that these are not competing against each other. So let's do this top portion and let's do this purple that we've been picking out. So now create a theme, and what I want to do, see if I do the A on that side, it's kind of hanging on itself. So I think I like how I had it divided. It just doesn't, it's got a nice even kind of box around it. There's not one word or phrase that is hanging out like if I had that. That just looks uneven and not balanced. But when I do this, it's kind of got a nice square format. So what I want to do is I can even make her bigger, right? I would love to have the hair slightly go over so you can kind of see the hair cut out there. I think that would be kind of neat. So I'm just going to be rearranging some of these elements to make it work for me. Doesn't have to be permanent. Just shift things around. So let's get some kind of photo to go across both of these. What I thought would be neat is finding an animal photo. We've already used a person. Let's find an animal photo and pretty much create a yellow and purple theme for that animal. What's a really bright, colorful animal when you think of animals? I think of birds. I think of parrots. So I'm going to go on Pexels.com or any free photo website, and I'm going to find a bird. And I did find one already right here. I thought that was just your typical super bright, colorful bird. I'm just going to bring the bird right in. So once again, we need to, if you have them just like this, that's fine. That's cool. But let's see if we can afford to really zoom in on that face and zoom in on the parrot. All right, so let's quickly isolate them. I think I can get away with just doing a quick select subject and then go down and mask them. That looks okay. What we want to do now is I'd love to kind of overlap elements. So maybe have that little stick overlap the E, and that would kind of help further create the layered look. I might need to make this typography a little small. I don't want too much of that yellow overlapping. You can always switch it where this is yellow and that is purple if that is going to be helpful in differentiating those two shapes. That was simple, just a little tweak. But see, now we don't have that overlapping anymore, and that's okay because we can just bring it on in. What I like about this is this perfect little space here, that almost like a puzzle piece coming together. I talk about that a lot. That kind of works nice too. We could overlap it still and kind of still fill in that negative space that's there with the design. Okay, so we need to make this bird yellow and purple. What is a great way to do that? Well, first of all, we can go up to Image, Adjustments, and we are going to do Selective Color, my most favorite powerful color tool in all of Adobe Photoshop. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of the reds and we're going to try to shift that to make them yellows. So let's add yellow. Add yellow. We want to take away magenta, which I guess in this case would be more red. Ooh, look at that. Just like that. I just took away kind of magenta and I added yellow, and we got a yellow parrot here. So now we want to make it nice, saturated, kind of to match this color. So let's kind of adjust some of our black. Let's not leave our black. Let's leave the black alone. Let's maybe take away cyan, which is blue. That'll kind of add more of a orangish yellow. You don't have to do every single color, but you can kind of cycle through them. So now we have some blues we can change. We want to make those purples. So I'm going to take all the blues. It's going to select all the blue pixels, and I'm going to make them purple. So how do I do that? Well, we want to take away blue, add magenta, right? That's going to make it purple. Okay, so I'm going to have to get maybe the cyans. Do the same thing. We're going to add magenta, take away blue, and voila, there it is. The cyan really helped. I guess there's more cyan than blue pixels in that feather. And now we have purple. And so there's this little bit of green left. See the green? So we're going to go down to greens, see if we can't maybe make that either yellow or purple or blue or something. So yeah, let's take away yellow off of those feathers. And I think that looks a little bit better. So we're going to click on OK. And there we go. We have our bird. Let's go ahead and add a quick drop shadow. Bring up our layer styles panel. And we could do a quick drop shadow. And what we could do is, if we don't like the default drop shadow, unclick use global light, and you can manually put your own shadows here. So I can have it cast down on the stick by just changing the angle. And when you unclick global light, it'll allow you just to change the shadows on this. It won't change it on all your drop shadows. So we could do this, or we can just hand draw our own shadows if we wanted to do that. But I think we're okay just using drop shadow, maybe reducing the opacity. Let's get the right angle on there. I think we could probably draw some more strong shadows. So let's create a new layer. This will be Shadow Bird. And I know I need to name all my layers, but there's so much going on here. It's just quicker just to keep going. So I'm going to get the brush tool. We've done this before in lots of other kind of projects I've done in the past with students, soft round, and we're just going to paint on black basically. Let's make sure it's really dark black. And let's go ahead and bring it under the bird. There we go. So that's going to really cast a much deeper shadow. And what I like to do is reduce the opacity on it so it's not so strong. So I think this looks better when you hand paint it. But okay, let's one thing I feel like we have all this color and we have this distracting brown and tan. What I want to do is I want to isolate that and make that black and white. So I'm just going to take our bird image. I'm going to go ahead and title this bird. And I'm just going to take the polygon lasso tool. That'll be the quickest way to select it. We could do a select subject, which is kind of a newer tool, or object selection tool, and just see if we can't select that object quickly. Oh, did a pretty good job. But if not, I would just do the polygon lasso tool and just select it really quickly. So what we could do is we can deselect this. Let me get the magnetic lasso tool. Let me cut it out. So I'm just gonna isolate this back out. We don't want to get that portion of the nail. So now that we have the branch selected, now how do we make just the branch black and white? So if we go up to image adjustments and do black and white, it does the whole thing, but we need to be able to isolate that. So let's go ahead with that selection. We're going to do a layering mask. And now we should be able to do a black and white adjustment. But instead of going up and doing it just on that same layer, we're going to hop on over to our adjustments layer instead and do it there. So where is black and white? There it is. And voila, we did it, and it did the layering mask. It just did, what it did is it created a new, when you go over to the adjustments panel and do it, it'll create a new layer adjustments instead of just on the layer. And we were able to mask it. I know that's a little complicated, but so we made that black and white. And one thing I like to do is I love to sharpen images when I have a chance. So I'm going to select our bird, just do a quick sharpen. I just feel like it just adds a little crispness to it. Same thing with our girl, although she's probably pretty good as is. She's pretty sharp. But let's see what one little sharpen does. There we go. Ooh, it just adds so much definition and crispness. You can also over sharp things. You can over sharpen an image, so be very careful. So there's our first two in our carousel post. Let's go ahead and move on and think about what we want to do. And now that it's always good to zoom out on an image to kind of see, well, the overall layout. Do I like it? Because I would love that bird to bleed over more into the page. And that's okay, because we could select our little black and white adjustment layer that we did a layering mask on, and we can select our bird, just held down shift to select both. I'm going to make them bigger. And I just feel like when I zoomed out, I feel like I needed to make that bird bigger and bleed over more into the next area. All right, so it's always good to zoom out, see your entire layout. So also I'm seeing that if I do guides, bring them down, this is not aligning well, and that's okay because it's a different slide. People aren't going to see them both at the same time. So there's some forgiveness when it comes to alignment of typography, but it's also nice to just, if you can, just doesn't hurt. And I think we have our hand-drawn shadows I just need to bring down. That's the one negative to hand-drawn shadows, is they're not part of the layer. So there we go. So let's move on to the next one. Let's duplicate. We want the same typography. So let's hold down Option, drag, and then bring it on over. So what are we going to do for the third one?